Hi Daniel, how you doing? Hope you're having a good day. Hey Oscar. That pipe is the Pipe Club of London's club pipe for 2023. I have shown it. I think I showed it last week. But I'll show it again. I realised that I hadn't actually done a video for it yet. A separate video. So I just took it out so I don't forget. I like to showcase the Pipe Club of London pipes. And in the London Calling, it's not really going to get its own sort of exposure, so I took it out to do it. This is the pipe. It's kind of an acorn kind of thing. And yeah, I thought this thing was silver, but apparently it's brass. But it says on it, Pipe Club of London 2023, and it's a Taylor Jefferson. Quite a decent sized pipe, big bowl, and because of this little notch at the bottom, it should have a decent amount of briar at the bottom of the bowl, so it should be a good smoking pipe. Hey Bull Moose. Is that the one you bought from me, Oscar? Did you buy that from me? Would I make a pipe club for the Pipe Club of London? Yeah. In principle, depending on what they wanted. I mean, the band might be a bit of a challenge. I might have to get those commissioned or something, you know, with the Pipe Club of London stamping on it. But the pipes themselves, as long as it wasn't a very sort of intricate pipe, you know, a pipe that could be easily replicated multiple times, yeah, I wouldn't be against that. Did I show this humidor last time? I don't remember. Have I already shown this humidor? Any of you know? Did I show this last week? Actually, I'm not sure. I could have shown it last week because I think I only got it during the course of the week. I'm currently smoking one of my own pipes with some OGS, call it golden sliced. I finished up 2 pipes. They're on my website. This is pipe 717, which is now on the website. It's like a Jekyll and Hyde. It's got a two type finish on it. Got a carved blast and sort of a razor cut rustication, very fine rustication, and sterling silver band on the stem, smooth rim, beautiful pipe. I've actually just knocked 15 quid off the price as well on the website. And this one, I just put this one up a short while ago. This is more of a standard pipe, but still very, very nice, lightweight, 38 grams, and it's priced like £100 less than the other pipe. It's more of an economical but perfectly good pipe. This is your sort of type of run-of-the-mill pipe for smoking every day and not worrying about you know, what might happen to it. It's just a great smoking pipe. So that's on the website. I think I put it up for 155 quid. And I'm tempted on this one. I really am. And I'm tempted on both of them, to be honest, but that one is a really good everyday smoking pipe. Sometimes if you have a pipe which is a bit fancy, you may not want to smoke it every day, but that one is just a good, solidly made pipe without silver and without anything valuable on it that will maybe discourage you from smoking it every day. $155 in US. It's a good question. It's 186 roughly in dollars. Plus the shipping. Hey Mark. Yeah, I wanted to. I spoke about it recently. That I wanted to do like a lower priced range, you know, a more reachable range, which is going to be equally well made, but just without, you know, silver and like intricate work on it. So you're going to get the same quality LCS pipe, but you know, just going to be more economical. Yeah, cigars have just gone crazy. Yeah, I mean the economical range could be 9mm, could be non-9mm. I'm not fussy about that. I have made, you know, a few non-filtered pipes, but I have found that they don't sell so well because I think my brand is really so well known for 9mm pipes that could be that I've excluded, you know, the non-filtered people, and I need to somehow bring that in. So I guess I have to make more, but the chances of them sitting around and not selling is greater. So I guess I make pipes which got more chance of selling. But yeah, cigars, Oscar, gone crazy. I'll show you a few cigars in a minute. This humidor was gifted to me by my son, actually. No, I'm not going to do 7-day sets unless it's ordered. It's just too risky. It's too much time. It's a week's worth of work, and then a 7-day set, you're going to price it in a way that's got to be worth doing. And the 7-day set is not just a matter of, I mean, it depends how you do it. You can do whatever you like, I guess. But a 7-day set is not just a matter of making 7 pipes. The idea is that they should all be looking similar, even though they're different shapes, but they should be similar colors, briar, similar grain, similar stain, same stem work, just maybe different shapes. So one might be a Dublin, one might be a Billiard, one might be a Bulldog, one might be a Brandy, that kind of thing, but essentially all looking the same. And that's not so easy. You've got to really search through all of your briar to try and get similar kind of matching stuff. I mean, you could do 7 random pipes as a set, but it wouldn't really be what's classically known as a 7-day set. If you have a look at the older 7-day sets from, Stanwell, Chariton, those kind of companies, you'll see 7 pipes which look identical in color and very similar in grain, but just different shapes. That's why 7-day sets were so expensive, because it was quite an elite kind of thing. Exactly $2,000. For me, there's no point me doing that, because it's not to say that I couldn't sell a set for $2,000, but it's a risk. I've sold single pipes for $700, the special Crown Series pipes, but there's a few and far between. They're not pipes that I'm going to sell every day. So to put a week's worth of work into one set and hope that you're going to sell it, it's not so easy. So maybe that's something to do whilst you're doing other pipes. Do one here, one there, and build up that set, and eventually when that set's done, put it out for sale, and then when it sells, it sells. That's probably something worth considering. I mean, that 2-pipe set that I did, it did sell, but it took some time to sell. And in the end, when you're making a pipe set, you want to add a little bit of a premium to make it worthwhile. Those pipes were both made and designed in the same way, as you'd expect for a 2-pipe set. But pricing wise, I had to price it pretty much the cost of 2 pipes plus the extra cost of materials for the box and stuff like that, the velvet. I didn't really make any more than I would have made if I would have sold them individually. Maybe a little bit, but I think you have to be at a certain sort of stage in your career to start doing 7-day sets, to make it worthwhile anyway. You can make them anytime you like. Hey Patrick, Troy. I also got this. This is a Peterson system pipe, which is a product. It's a refurbishment. It's a customer sent me this once it fully refurbished, and I've done a video of it as it is, and I'll do a video each stage of the way. But it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to doing this. The difficulty with this is the pricing of it. Charging. How much do you charge for it? Because the amount of time that I'll take redoing this pipe, I could make a new pipe. So although I'm not really a repairman per se, but I thought this one would be an interesting project, and the customer really wanted me to do it. So I took it on, and I gave him an estimate, which was more than he wanted to spend. And I said to him, there are plenty of people who specialize in it, and I'd have no problem. I would not be offended if you wanted to, take it to other people. But there's got to be a certain, at least a minimum price that's got to be worth my while messing around. But looking at it, it's got really, really nice grain. There are some fills on it. It must be quite an old pipe. There are some fills on it, which I'll try to absorb in the staining. But I'm actually, usually when you restore a pipe, you want to restore a pipe to its original condition. So you're just enhancing what was already there. I'm not doing that with this pipe. I'm stripping this to briar, and I'm going to put my staining on it. And I'm going to do a contrast stain. Obviously, depending on how much it's been smoked. I mean, the inside is pretty caked up, and the mortise as well is pretty caked up. So I don't know how bright I'm going to be able to get the briar, because once it's been smoked for a few years, the briars absorb all that tobacco juice, so it darkens, as you see with many pipes, especially if you get a naked pipe, a virgin pipe. After it's smoked, you know, well, consistently, it becomes dark brown from all those tobacco juices getting absorbed, and from your hand, the oils in your hand. So I don't know how light I'll be able to get it, but it looks like potentially I'll be able to get a really nice stain on this. So I'm really looking forward to this. I have to remember to take some pictures of it as well before I start work. So I've done a video, and I have to actually remember to save it separately on my phone so that I don't delete it by mistake. So that's that should be an interesting. Hey Andy, that should be an interesting project. It's actually, I've always said this. I've never been a huge Peterson fan. I have two pipes that I smoke, which I enjoy, but I've never been madly sort of in love with Petersons. I had a bad experience with them once, which you've all heard me talk about many times. One of my favourite all-time pipes, and an absolute nightmare. As I say, you've probably heard the story already enough times. So I kind of left a bit of a bad taste in my mouth, I guess. But for want of a better word, I wasn't talking about tobacco juices. Hey Ryder, how you doing, wretched? Anyway, so this one, it's a nice looking pipe. It's got a really nice balance to it, and I'm looking forward to working on that. So I was thinking of maybe smoking this tonight, but I want to do that video, so I'll leave that for a while. I do have several new pipes which I need to break in. I've got the Fincato, the Talamona pipe, which I got in Italy. I haven't smoked that one yet. I have smoked the Jacopo, as you know. Had a few volts through it already. It's already getting darker over there. And I kind of can't wait for it to break in more, so that I can really enjoy my morning. I really want that to be one of my morning smokes with the Audit Golden Sliced. And I've got that Carver Exchange pipe as well, which I haven't smoked yet. So I've got several pipes which I need to smoke. I don't need to, but they have to be at some point broken in. Anyway, so this humidor was gifted to me by my son. It's his humidor, but he's no longer smoking cigars. He's gone on a health kick, lost a lot of weight, jacking up the muscles, doing a lot of exercise. Anyway, so he decided that he's not smoking cigars anymore, most of which he got from me in the first place. But the humidor he bought himself, which is actually quite good. It's quite appropriate for me because I no longer have my Frigidor in here. I don't have the room for it. It's downstairs in my ground floor, one of the rooms at the back. It's actually really cold in there, so I need to kind of think about that. So at the moment in here I've got just plastic airtight containers with cigars in. So it's actually quite nice that I'll have a humidor. So it's got nice detailing on it. It's got these metal straps on it. It's got a lock, the key's inside, and it's got some nice sort of graining to the wood. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a nice looking humidor. So it's got a hygrometer on the top, but I don't trust those hygrometers really. And there's a few cigars in there, which he's given to me, which is very nice. There's a... It needs to be rehumidified because he didn't... I think the last couple of weeks probably was... His Bevidas has probably run out. There's a Monte Cristo number 4. So I've put in a fresh one of those. There's a Monte Cristo limited edition from 2016, which is the Dantes, which he got from me in the first place. I've got maybe 1 or 2 of those left downstairs. This one I'm looking forward to. This is a Tubos Romeo Julieta Churchill. This is the classic Churchill. I think 7 inches by 40 something, 47, 48. And it's in a Cedros Tubos. So it's a Tubos in a tube with a cedar spill inside. I'm looking forward to that, and that one is actually okay because it was in the Tubos, so it's still got quite a bit of humidity in there. I could smoke that any time really. It's ready to go. And we also have and this cigar has already become really valuable. It's a bit messed up, the band. I don't know what he's done with it, but it's a Ramon Allones 2019 limited edition. It's a number 2. I actually have a box of these, a box of 10, a whole box. Hey Christopher, how you doing? And I'm quite happy that I've got one of these that I can smoke because I didn't really want to break up that box. So that's the cigar. So there's nothing, as I say, nothing major in here, but it still needs to get humidity going on in there. It still feels quite dry in there. Alright, Andy, have a good one. I'll take my scarf off. Just catching on my cap. I saw Jack Ryan did a video. He's selling some tobacco, some Esoterica bags, a couple of cigars. I didn't go for the cigars because cigars are just too expensive nowadays, Cubans. But he did have a couple of tins that I was interested in, especially one, but when I messaged him, I'd missed it by about half an hour, so that was that. He had a tin of Bijou, which I thought I'd try. I think that's Virginia and Orientals. I'm not sure if I've tried that one before. Things doing all right, Christopher? The oldest non-Cuban cigar. It's probably in my Tapador right here. Oh, somebody's put that there. I don't know. This is in my youth, I used to play quite a bit of snooker. This one is when I was reorganizing the workshop the other day. The zip is so stiff because I haven't had it open for so long. Oh, this brings back memories. I don't know if any of you guys know that brand at all. But I don't think it's a particularly expensive cue, but this I bought from a guy who actually had a snooker table in his house, lived in a bit of a mansion. I bought this, we're talking about 30 years ago. But I've always loved this cue, so I've always kept that. I've had other cues in between, but I always kept this one. And the reason why I like this cue so much is, number one, it's very well balanced and lightweight. Got a very narrow tip. But why I like this one is it's coated in fiberglass. And I hadn't seen that before. And the guy sold it to me for like, at the time he sold it to me brand new for about 45 quid. Nowadays it would be a lot more money. It's very, very well made. But it's coated in this half, the half where you're doing the cueing action, is coated in fiberglass, which makes it very, very smooth to the cueing action. Makes it very smooth, and I've always loved this. And I've had other sort of, attempted to go up and upgrade. Spent a lot of money, like a couple of £100 on a snooker cue, a 3-piece, so it's got an extension, all that stuff. Never ever as good as this. Sometimes you don't have to spend money if it just fits you, and this one just always fit me. It just fit like a glove. And instead of having a 3-piece, I just bought one of those, those push-on extensions. I kind of now fancy going out for a game of snooker now, having taken that out. I mean, the guy that sold it to me, I think he had some kind of stake in that company, and he probably gave it to me for a deal because I used to go and play with him. It was a mate. I mean, I wouldn't have called him a personal mate, but he was an acquaintance. So I think he gave me a deal. I still remember going to his house at that time, and it must have been a pretty wealthy guy. I think we had to drive an hour to get there, and we had to have a password to get past the gate. He had to drive. Obviously it was quite a big mansion, and you had to go through some gates and then drive up quite a long drive to get to his house, but you couldn't get in unless you had the password. And we thought he was mucking around and we were laughing, but when we got there we realised there was no way we were getting in without the password. He was very security conscious. So we played a bit of snooker, and then he showed me these. I think there was two. I think a friend of mine also bought one. And it's interesting. I've got maybe a handful of things which I've kept over the years. You tend to sort of lose things or just chuck away stuff after a while, and you get sort of, your possessions sort of change. They sort of, unless you're a hoarder. But I do have a selection of things that I have which I've had for 30-40 years. I've got a little calculator, which is a solar powered Casio calculator, but it was one of those credit card sized ones, wafer thin, and I always loved it. I never use it, but I never got rid of it, and it was something which I always kept. It's not worth anything, but it's just something which I valued when I got it at the time. In those days I did use it because there was no smartphones or anything like that. So it kind of has a sentimental value. You just feel like you don't want to get rid of it because it's part of you. It's part of your childhood or part of your teenage years or early 20s or whatever it was at the time. I think I got it when I was about 17 or 18. There was when I actually went to college in Manchester. I was there for a couple of years, and about a mile down the road, a mile and a half down the road, just past Strangeways Prison, Her Majesty's Prison, Strangeways, there was like a retail area which was known to be kind of wholesale kind of thing. I used to go there on Fridays and just mosey on around there. Didn't really have anything to do, but any spare change I had ended up going in there. I bought a beautiful Seiko watch at the time. My father loved it so much. so he ended up with it. Beautiful, very slim, square, kind of unusual for Seiko. Lovely watch. My oldest cigar. Those will be downstairs in the humidor. Yeah, I got a handful of these stems. I've still got one or two left. These were new old stock, and they stopped producing them, and they're just so different, so unusual. Sort of almost like sand grains in there, and so I've always kind of treasured them and really used them sparingly. So I've still got a couple of them left. My oldest cigar is probably about 20 years old, something like that. Actually, a bit older. I think it might be the Trinidad Fundadores that I've got. I've got one with the old band, previous band, which I think they disbanded. I think they stopped using around the turn of the century. Not sure. Have I ever considered going to the Chicagoland pipe show? Every single time. I'd love to go. It's just not something which is... It's not practical for me. I might send some pipes there this year. Andrew Sirigliano said he would take some for me. But I think it's coming up quite fast. I think it's in April, isn't it? So I'm not sure that I'll have anything to send them, really. All I'll have is pipes that I haven't sold. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I would like to go, but the problem is the flight is too long. I don't enjoy flying for that length of time. I'm okay for a few hours, but 8-9 hours is just a hell of a long time. End of April. My Zippo collection. I haven't really got what you'd call a collection. I've got maybe half a dozen, but I'm more than happy to show them to you. Oh, I was going to show you the cigars. One of my oldest ones, New World. No, not that. This is, I don't know if Dunhill still makes cigars, because they certainly stopped doing pipe tobacco. But this is a Dunhill Maduro aged. And this, the reason why it's in this container is because I bought it before Dunhill had withdrawn from tobacco, and they had just taken delivery of this in the Dunhill shop in St James's. This was a new release at the time, and this was the first one sold out of the shop. I just thought it was something special. It's got no value to anybody else. Only I know that it was the first one. Nobody else is gonna, there's no proof. I know that it was the first one sold out of the shop. And the guy who worked there, Robert, he told me that, lovely fellow, it's no longer a Dunhill shop now, but he told me this was the first one sold. Yeah, it does look good. It's, I've had it in here for, how long have I had it for? I don't know, maybe 5 years or something like that. So I don't really have any kind of significant New World cigars, other than, I suppose, that. I've got some that have been in here for a good 4 or 5 years, but in terms of something special or valuable, I don't know enough about New Worlds to say, but I do have some which I've had for a good number of years. The nub, I don't think is old. I mean, some of these have been gifted as well, but when I look them up to see what type of smoke they are, they just don't. They're just not in my wheelhouse. You know, savoury, peppery affairs, which not really my thing. Yeah, I've had a fair few Padrons. I do have a. What is that? This is the bag that Adam Pipe Wandering gave me when I met him at JJ Fox's recently. So he gave me a bunch of short smokes, and one of them is a Padron. So he gave me this one, which is a Aladino Rothschild Habano. And we have a Padron 1926, which I have had a bigger size of this. Very nice and chocolatey, cocoa, coffee kind of affair. And this is the Arturo Fuente short story, Hemingway. I've had loads of these back in the day. I mean, in the days when I was smoking New World cigars a lot, I had a lot of these. Nice cigars. Charlie, Boca to Boynton. And what's this one? A Padilla or Padilla. So these are all cigars that I need to sort of do videos on. I'll smoke them and do videos when I smoke them, because I haven't smoked them before. Besides for the Hemingway short story, the other ones I haven't smoked before. As I say, I smoked that, but in a different Vitola, a very different Vitola, a much bigger cigar. That was a Churchill, which I think was a 7" by 54 ring gauge. It was a massive cigar. It took me 3 sessions to smoke it, and the nicotine in those days, it knocked me for 6. But I'm looking forward to smoking it. These are fairly economic cigars, Brickhouse cigars, but I've kept these because this Izzy, Happy-Go-Lucky Piper, who lives in Israel, sent me these. Well, he gave them to me when I met him in Israel a few years ago. And these were made in to commemorate the 70th anniversary of the State of Israel. I've got a couple of those. I'm still smoking my pipe. I've still got some Oleg Golden sliced in this lovely LCS egg, and OGS always tastes good in this pipe. In some pipes, OGS tastes like a generic Virginia. But in some pipes, when you wanted me to get the zippers, I'll get that in a minute. But in some pipes, I find that you get a much more like a bready burnt sugar. So you get the bready flavour, and you also get a burnt sugary kind of not caramelly, but just a burnt sugar kind of flavour. Really nice sweetness coming through, and in this pipe, that's what I get. Rockin' steady. How you doing, David? All right, let me get you those Zippos. Oh, perfect timing, Charlie. So this is, oh no, I think this one was from Art, actually, I'm not sure. This is, I think it was from Art, this one. This is London Calling. It says London Calling and YTPC on there. I've taken the insert out, I'm using it on a different pipe. And this is an Armour one, so this is the thicker one, the stronger one. I don't use it that much simply because the mirror finish would get destroyed on it. So that's, I think I got that from Art. It was very generous. This one I got from Charlie from Booker to Boynton. That's a regular insert. American flag. This one I also got from Charlie, Booker to Boynton. He was very generous, sent me two. The Booker to Boynton with a little pipe motif on it, brushed metal. Nice pipe, nice lighter. This one I bought myself. This was to commemorate 500 million Zippos. Never used that. That's empty. And then I have one that I have out on my desk because I use that. That's the Jack Daniels with a cigar, a torch insert. And I think this is an original Zippo one. Yeah, they started to make original Zippo. I found that the replacement ones never really were good enough, but the original Zippos are fine. And this one is made by Kraken Leather. So this is a Zippo pipe insert, and with just a regular plain case, but he's wrapped it in leather. Beautiful stitching. It's my favorite Zippo because it's just so easy to use. That leather grip on it and the stitching just gives you a really good grip. So love that. And then this one is one of my favorite sort of, if you call it a collection, but I don't use it, but just, this one is called, what's it called? It's got a name. Have I got the right box even? Yeah, it's called Gold Cash Surprise. So, yeah. So it's gold bullion in there when you open up the lid, and I love it. I'm a sucker for stuff like that. So that's like the door of a safe, and it reveals that. I really like that one, but again I haven't used it. That was just bought as for a collection. And this one is a really special one. I got this from Mark, which was a super generous gift from Mark, Welsh piper. This is the 90th anniversary. I hummed and hawed about buying this myself. Maybe he saw that, maybe I'd mentioned it, I have no idea, but he went ahead and bought it. So it's a 90th anniversary. Look at that. I was totally blown away when I got that. 90th anniversary. It's got a little Zippo in there. It's got a kind of a marble effect on it, and it says on the side 1932 to 2022. And again, I've never used this, but I love it. It's a wonderful gift. So those are my Zippos. So what have I got here? 7, 8, 9. I think I've got another one outside as well. So I think I've got 10 Zippos. That's my collection. So it's not a major collection, but it's cool. I love them. They're nice. Some more Dremel bits arrived today. I started this on Friday, didn't get to finish it. I think I'll finish it now. That's basically done. The pipe. This is a half Corona from, yes, I could use the torch, couldn't I? This is a half Corona from Italy when I was there. Well, effectively they do. You buy any of their Zippo cases and just stick the insert in. It's their insert, it's a Zippo insert. Yeah, that's exactly what they are, the short smoke. I bought, I kind of regret that I just didn't have the money, but they had these 5-packs. So, really nice box, indented to take 5 cigars. I really like these. It's also a great size if you're going out or going away for a couple of days. Take those with you. And they really taste good. They're a really good cigar. It's a shame. I should have bought more. I really should have. And they're really quite flavorful for the size that they are. You know, you don't expect to get much of a evolution, much of a journey on a small little thing like that. Yeah, I used to get them for $95 for a box of 25. Now you can't even find them, a box of 25. The shop that I went to in Italy, they had a nice humidor. It was virtually empty. It was virtually bare. You had literally 3 or 4 different cigars there. I think I must have put them downstairs in the humidor. At least I hope I did. Otherwise they're going to be dry by now. I hope I did. It was Fincato. This is where I bought the other pipe. This is the Talamona, which I haven't smoked yet. I bought that from Fincato. Very nice grained pipe. And Talamona, it's an Italian brand. I actually never noticed this. It's got an inscription on there which says Revolution Buffalo, whatever that means. Handmade Croce Paolo. So there's the name, Fincato. Very, very nice shop, very welcoming. I would go there again in a heartbeat. Christopher, have a look back a few videos. of mine, and I did a handful of videos when I was in Italy a couple of weeks ago, and I put up a few videos there, and one of them has quite an extensive coverage of that shop and also of Novelli, which is another pipe shop. So if you want to see what that shop is like, then check it out. It'll give you a better idea than you'll have on Google. Yeah, definitely more cigar smokers in Italy walking around. It was the norm. You walked around the side streets in Rome, and you know it's like a rabbit's nest, a rabbit warren. It's like little streets going off little streets into little streets going into a piazza, and more streets coming off that. But everywhere you walked, you could smell the same smell, which was the Nostrano cigars. And it's just a shame that I just don't like them. I wish I did, because they're so readily available there, cheap, and those are cigars which are sort of thick in the middle and then taper off at both ends. And what people do there is they just break them in half, and you end up with 2 cigars. So you buy a box of 5, you end up with 10 smokes, 10 short smokes. And everywhere people are smoking those. When I went to Venice a few years ago, I bought some of those back, but I just didn't like them. I ended up giving them all away. Yeah, like a cheroot. Same kind of idea. I think they have Kentucky tobacco in them, which I'm not a fan of. I finally shipped all of the giveaway prizes. It took me a long time, because I find generally with giveaway stuff, I'm focused on stuff that I'm on, pipes that I'm making and selling. So the giveaway stuff, I do that kind of in my own time kind of thing. I suppose I should do it quicker, but anyway, they're all shipped. So if you're waiting on a prize from my giveaway, then it's on its way. And the tobacco prizes, I think I have 2 left that I need to send off. I gave away, I think, 6 tobacco prizes maybe, and 3 pipes. So the pipes have gone, and 3 of the tobaccos have gone, and I've got another 2 to send off, and then I'm clear. And any pipes that have been sold have also all been done. So I'm pretty much up to date. 6, 9, 7, like I say, everything's shipped. So yeah, did I not send you a tracking? Bull moose. Hang on, let me check. I've started writing in all the pipes now. 6, 9, 7 is sent. Yes, I've put a tick on it. Let me check. Yep, it was sent on the 24th of February, yours. I should put the dates that they were shipped as well in future as well. But I can always search it on the email. So 24th of Feb, so it's been in the system now for nearly 2 weeks, so shouldn't be long, hopefully. Yeah, I mean the mail is not great. It was shipped on the 24th. It's only a week, right? Well, there you go. You're right, it was 28 days. Yeah, I did say that I would send stuff after I came back on that Friday. So, as I do, my shipping goes on a Friday usually, so that's when it was done. But the mail is slow. The UK mail, they had this whole cyber attack which they had to deal with, which is sorted now, but they've got a backlog, I guess, which they're getting through. Actually, let me check the tracking as well and see if there's any update on there. And also, their website hasn't been great during this whole cyber attack. They've kind of had limited information on there. But I'll send you the tracking so you can track it yourself. Yeah, so all it says is they've got the item. It doesn't say anything more than that. It just says destination United States of America. Hold on, tracking history. Yeah, that's all it says. But I have noticed that during this whole episode with this cyber attack, that the website, like I said, hasn't been updated very much. But I know stuff is arriving because I get confirmations from customers all the time. So you will get it all being well. I mean, I've got one customer who keeps sending me abusive emails, literally abusive emails, swearing and calling me all names under the sun because he hasn't got his pipe. And I sent him the tracking and I said, you know, I don't have your pipe anymore. It's out there. I can't do anything. I can't go and speed things up. I can't go and push it. I can't go and push the airplane faster. And it just seems to be something which that person can't seem to understand. You know, it's unpredictable. You know, sometimes you can get an item to the States and it arrives within 5 to 7 days, and sometimes it can take a month. You know, I've got no control over that at all. And you really don't want to see the emails and the names that guy has called me. And I keep answering him and saying, what do you want me to do? I've done what there's nothing more that I can do. I've sent it secured, I've sent it tracked, I've insured it. What else do you want me to do? I mean, the last email was one word, and he called me a name beginning with a W. That was the email, nothing else, just one word. I don't know, some people. Beginning with a W and ending in Kerr. I think you can work that out. I mean, it's just childish, really, because, as I say, there's literally nothing I can do once it leaves my possession. Yeah, I suppose it takes all kinds. Look, I get it. You know, people are frustrated if they don't get their thing the next day. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? But, you know, if you're buying something from overseas, you just have to be a little bit tolerant, a little bit patient. The person sending it has no power to speed things up. There's nothing that you can do. You guys remember I had that when I did that pipe auction for matches. Do you remember we did a pipe auction for matches 860 for John Harden for his family? We raised some funds, and I got a bunch of pipe makers to make pipes, and we auctioned them. And one of them was from Josh, Dragon Briars, and he's unfortunately no longer making pipes, but and he sold off all his gear and all his briar, and that's all done with. It's a shame when you see that, but I guess it's really hard. I mean, I'm feeling it myself. It's hard to make a living making pipes, and it's going to get harder. I know that, the way the world is going. You know, people can't afford them. But anyway, we did the auction. His pipe didn't arrive, and we did that auction, and the pipe arrived 13 months, a year and a month after he shipped it. Can you believe that? overall, I would say that it's been okay. There are a few stories where it takes a long time, but generally speaking, it goes pretty well. If people ask me how long will it take for the pipe to arrive, I say to them, on average, it's usually a couple of weeks. 10 days to 2 weeks, and it's 9 times out of 10 that's what it'll be. But sometimes it just goes haywire. When we had that issue at the end of 2020, when COVID just hit everybody, and there was also mail strikes and God knows what, people were waiting 2-3 months for their stuff. When we were buying cigars online, people stopped sending stuff to certain countries because it was just unreliable. On average, I would say it's around 10 days. Sometimes I'm blown away where I send something off and 3-4 days later the guy confirms that he's got it, and that's great, that's amazing. But that's not usual. That's really exceptionally fast. But I would say 10 days, between 7 days and 2 weeks, but around 10 days is the norm. Nowadays, with COVID, with the stuff going on around the world, maybe a little bit longer sometimes, but if I buy pipes from some of the guys here in the UK, they you don't always get it straight away. It depends on when they do their shipping. I do shipping only once a week, so if somebody buys a pipe from me on Monday, he's unlikely to get it till the next Monday, unless I do a midweek ship. But usually, I do them always at the end of the week. Bull Moose, exactly the same. Royal Mail used to be worthy of its royal warrant. It isn't anymore. I guess they do the best but they can, but they've got a lot of competition as well to handle. Hey Steve, Kathy, you got it in 2 weeks. That's pretty average, Daniel. That's okay. 3 days, that's fantastic. So there you go, but that's the exception. But the Royal Mail, I remember not that long ago, I would say about 20 years ago, something like that, there used to be 2 posts in a day. If you sent something first class, say by lunchtime, then even if you sent something in the morning, the recipient got it the same day. A letter. I'm not talking about parcels, but a letter. If you sent a letter in the morning, they could get it on the second post. There used to be 2 posts. So you'd have the morning post and then the afternoon, lunchtime post. And sometimes if you sent it in the morning, the recipient, if it was in London, they could get it the same day, but certainly it was guaranteed they would have it the next morning with a first class, regular, not signed for, not tracked, not anything, just a regular first class mail. Nowadays, for the most part, first class does arrive within a day, but they now say 2 to 3 days officially. But most times it's quite efficient, but it's nowhere near as efficient as it used to be. That's what I can tell you. I mean, they've got, for instance, it happened to me today actually. I had some items for collection. So when you book a collection on Royal Mail's website, so they give you an option of you printing it out yourself, the label, or they print it out and bring it a sticky label, and they bring it with them. So I had a bunch of stuff for them to collect, maybe 10 parcels or something like that. But because it's my Sabbath, I can't actually deal with it. I can't put the stickers on, all of that kind of thing. So I asked them, and that's how it's been in the past as well. If it happens to be that they collect it on a Saturday, they're usually very gracious and they'll put the stickers on the parcel. I always put the name on the parcel so they know which one to do, and no problem at all. Today, he said no, he just literally had the wad of stickers and he just threw it in my door, and he said, no, I'm not allowed to do it anymore. I said, why not? Because it takes too much time, and I'm timed on my smartphone where I am, how long I am on each address. But I said to him, it doesn't make sense, because you're providing a service of providing the stickers. So whether I stick them on or you stick them on takes the same time. So what's the big deal? In the past, he's been very nice and he's done it, but he's obviously decided he's not doing it anymore. Which is fair enough. I'm not going to argue with him. I'm not going to have a fight with him. So he said he's going to come back on Monday. So fine, no problem. Well, I think that Royal Mail, if they don't pull their socks up, they're going to be in trouble, because you've got so many courier companies now. I mean, they are making they are the guys who are making money now, because everything is going by courier. Amazon is all by courier, and there's lots of people also earning a living by becoming Amazon drivers, which is a great thing actually. There's a lot of people who are just doing work in their spare time, housewives. I've had lots of women delivery vans bringing Amazon stuff, and I've mentioned this before. I had a chat with one of them because my wife was thinking about doing something to earn some extra money, and we wanted to know if it was worthwhile. And I asked her all about it, and she was very forthcoming with the information. And she says that they provide the van. You have to pay like a rental for the van, and whatever it is towards the insurance, petrol, and so on. All said and done, when she's finished her week, she goes away with £600. And that's not to be sneezed at. If you add that to your household income, that's great. But if you buy stuff from Amazon and you've got Prime membership, and you're getting stuff sometimes even the same day, but certainly the next day, and 9 times out of 10 it's reliable. Occasionally they'll be late and they'll come the following morning if they're overrun, but it's quite rare. So they're certainly able to do it. Their distribution is working. So if Royal Mail don't pull their socks up, they're going to lose out. And Amazon are doing it free. If you've got Prime membership, it costs £8-9 a month, whatever it is. I mean, that's the cost of one parcel to ship, or 2 parcels to ship. And if you're getting a bunch of parcels each month, it's worthwhile, But there are courier companies out there who just doing a terrible job as well. And I mean, I hear this. I see people posting on IG about USPS. That you get packages crumpled and beaten up and bashed up. They don't look after this stuff, and stuff getting lost, and you just got nobody to talk to. I've had that a couple of times with Royal Mail. I did have one pipe which I sent. It was a Stanwell, and it's the one time where nowadays whenever I book it online. There was a time when I was doing it manually, and I was taking it to the post office, and it was a whole procedure each time. But now I can do it all online, so it's easier. So when the receipt comes on the screen before I print it, I save it. So I've always got a copy of every single tracking receipt. But in those days I didn't, and I lost the ticket, and so I couldn't do a claim on it or anything like that. And the customer claimed that they never ever got it, and so I had to give them their money back. And I had no recourse because I didn't have the ticket. That's the only time really that I actually lost money. But the previous time, I had sold a Paul Menard pipe, a beautiful kind of an egg. I'd sold it on eBay, and the customer basically did a spiel and messed me around. It went to America, so everything was delayed because each stage is 2 weeks, till it gets there and all that kind of thing. It didn't arrive after about 2 months. It hadn't arrived, and so eBay, of course, they always side with the buyer. They don't even look at what I mean, I'd sent a whole representation, and I had the tracking, and I had the ticket, and blah blah, and I'd done everything that I'd contracted to do, but they still insisted on the refund, which fine. They gave the guy's money back, and I waited and waited and waited, and the thing never arrived back. Months later, I actually put a claim into Royal Mail with a ticket, and they were looking into it, and some months later I got the package back, believe it or not. But the thing, it looked like it had been run over by a truck. I mean, this was an expensive artisan pipe. The bag that I'd sent it in was torn and almost like burnt. It was like a rubbery. I might have even sent it in one of these bags, one of my bags, and it's kind of a vinyl kind of thing, and it looked like it had a lot of a friction burn on it, and the pipe itself had the same friction burn, and one side was completely wrecked, and I had to restore it, and I restored it, and it was fine. But that was a bit of a story. But one thing I'll say for Royal Mail is that usually at some point you'll get it back. I actually did a video, a morning drive video on Friday, but I didn't upload it. I thought it might be controversial. Interesting story. You want to hear it? So there was a news item which I heard on LBC about some kids getting suspended in a school up in somewhere in England. I'm not sure where exactly, because I'm just thinking if I should bother going onto LBC's website and read it for you verbatim. Basically, some kids had brought a Quran into the. Hey Faizan, how you doing? We were just talking about the Peterson before. So essentially, they had some kind of competition between a few of the boys, and one of the boys, when they'd lost, they were doing some kind of computer game or something, and whoever lost, their forfeit was that they had to bring in a Quran and read out some of the passages. So they brought in the Quran, they read out the passages in their break time, their recess, and whilst they were running through the corridors or whatever it was, the Quran fell to the floor by mistake, and it got soiled and defaced, and some of the pages got a little bit damaged. The Quran obviously is a holy book, much like the Bible or the Torah, and that's perfectly understandable. Hey Stevie. Now the way LBC, the reason why I did the morning drive, why I did that chat, was because I was having a rant about the press and how they skew stories to make it sensationalized, and it really upset me at the time, because this story, it just didn't make any sense to me, because it said that the book had fallen to the floor by mistake, and they picked up the book, put it in the bag, and that was that. Now after that, the boy, who turns out is actually on the what's his name spectrum, he's on kind of on a Down syndrome kind of spectrum, which also put a very odd slant on the story, because if he's a Down syndrome child, you can't really blame him for that kind of thing, but maybe he's only just on the spectrum, I'm not sure. But it turns out he was suspended, this kid, on autistic. Yeah, I don't think it was Asperger's, it just said he was on the spectrum, autistic, maybe mildly autistic. And I mean, you can search the story, but he was suspended, and then the police were brought in, and it was then recorded as an unintentional or unaggravated or something like that hate crime, which the whole story just didn't make any sense, because either they weren't reporting it accurately, and either they abused the book, and of course if they did, they deserve punishment. But that didn't come across at all. What came across was that it was an accident, and it was just kids, mucking about, and it just didn't make sense. And as a result, this kid has now had death threats. A 14-year-old kid has had death threats, and he stayed home because kids in the school have threatened to beat him up when he comes back to school. So I still didn't get to the bottom of it, because I went afterwards onto their website, and it still kind of maintained that it was an accident. I still don't understand the story. I would be upset if somebody took the Jewish Bible, the Torah, and threw it on the floor and tore pages out of it. I'm sure I'd be upset. I mean, I'd never get to the upset stage of saying that I'm going to kill you as a result, but I'd certainly be upset. So if I was a Muslim, I'd be upset. But if it was an accident, we certainly wouldn't be upset. You could feel bad that a holy book had fallen to the floor. Yes, of course, but the whole story didn't make sense, and I just felt that it was just news being reported in a way in order to sensationalize things and to create problems. So any aggravation that this area is having now, or the school, or the parents, or the kid, or even the local mosque, any aggravation that they're having now as a result is because it's been reported and sensationalized, and that really upset me. The main part of the story is clearly missing, because there's just something that doesn't make sense. And I think that, news companies should be held to account when they do something like that. We've got enough trouble in the world without, that kind of thing happening where it needn't happen. Look, you always get the crazies, you always get the extremists, coming out with death threats and fatwas and all that kind of thing. That happens, but if they would report it accurately, if it was an accident, it doesn't make sense that the police would be called and they would record it as a hate crime. It doesn't make sense. And I just think that we're not being fed the full story. So that upset me on Friday. It does seem like adding fuel to the fire, yeah. See, a lot of the time there's a lot of political pressure because I don't know the area that it was in. It could be a very intensely Muslim populated area, and so therefore the authorities have to be careful not to upset people. And I do understand that. Sometimes it can be very sensitive. I mean, I know certainly when stuff happens in North London, which is a very Jewish area, or there's 2 or 3 different areas in London which are quite heavily populated with Jewish communities, and you do see sometimes that people are very careful about what they say. I also feel sometimes that people jump on the anti-Semitic bandwagon and they make too much fuss over stuff. Sometimes people say things which, you could construe it as being anti-Semitic, but sometimes I just think people jump on the bandwagon and they just sort of, like I've said in the past, people are almost coiled, ready to spring the second anything has a slightest whiff, of anything, and they just become this massive victim, and they got to make this huge sensationalized issue of it. And sometimes it's best just left alone. Sometimes you do have to make an issue of things because you don't want, things getting out of hand, but sometimes it's just, as I say, sensationalizing. There is a video out there of the kids doing it. Okay, I haven't seen that, but they didn't report that. They just said it was accident. What do they call it when people virtue signaling? There's all these new sayings that have come out in this woke society that you just gotta, I think it's called virtue signaling. People are always, they want to be angels, so they'll try and find anything that they can say, well, I'm an angel. What you did is terrible, but I'm great. I can't keep track of all the new terminologies out there these days. Well, there we go. It is necessary because forgiveness doesn't exist in that mindset. I'll tell you the honest truth, Patrick. I don't watch the news really. Sometimes I hear it on LBC in the mornings, but even that, it just gets my goat sometimes. But LBC is my go-to, generally speaking. I do enjoy listening to it because it's entertaining, but they are what news presenters are. Not the news presenters. These are the shows after, between the news. So you've got the news on the hour and on the half hour, and then you've got in between, you've got the call-in shows, the radio shows. And those presenters like Nick Ferrari and James O'Brien, they're very good at what they do. So sometimes I'm with them and sometimes I'm not, and that's fine. We can't agree on everything. But when it's reported in a way which is clearly skewed to create controversy, and if it's just some silly news item, then fine. But when it's something which can create literal danger for somebody, physical danger, then I think they have to take some responsibility for that. And to be honest with you, nowadays watching the news is depressing anyway. You know, there's never anything good. It's all bad news. It's just not worth reporting otherwise. Every so often, you'll get a good news, a heart sort of a good feel story. But generally speaking, it's all doom and gloom. And we all know there's plenty doom and gloom around in the world. Rich dark flake, yum. Haven't smoked that in a good while. You can tell I'm enjoying this cigar, nubbing it. Yeah, I don't have a nubber. There are nubbers that you can buy, which is, well, actually I do have one out in the garage, but this is just easy. This is a little round file which I use when I'm filing out pipe the button. Oscar, yes, absolutely. I was talking about that with my kids. We were sitting at the Sabbath meal today, and we were talking about, and I said to my kids, okay, which one of you knows what a cassette is? And one of my daughters, she's 14 I think, and she says, is it one of those things where you put a needle thing and it goes around and around and around? I said, no, that's a record player. Well, speaking about Basil Fawlty, there was talk about bringing back Fawlty Towers. I went to visit my parents earlier, and I was telling my mum, when I was a kid, I remember I used to love going to electronic shops. So there was one just down the road from us. It was called Sushak Electronics. And I think there were two Indian brothers, and they basically had whatever you wanted. You know, it was just, that was my favorite time. I could just go there, and they knew me already. I very rarely bought anything, and I just wanted to see all the latest stuff. And so I bought a Walkman one time when they first came out. It was an Alba, so that was a cheap make at the time. Couldn't afford Sony, of course. So I bought an Alba one, and it came with these little wire headphones. You remember those, with a little flexi wire with little orange foam earpads? Remember those? It was my first Walkman, and it came with a strap which you put over your shoulder. And I remember in those days, you know, people were very conservative, and I remember riding around the streets with the headphones on my bike. And I remember my aunt called up and said, it's not appropriate for you to do that. It's a very yobbish thing to do. It's impolite to ride around the streets with headphones on your thing. And I thought, give me a break. I mean, I was young. I was probably about 12 or 13 at the time. But I thought that was fun. And believe it or not, when I bought my first Walkman, that was my first experience of stereo. Everything before that was mono. And I remember I didn't know what stereo was, and I remember the sound was coming out of both ears at different times, and I thought, there's something wrong with this. I actually took it back, and I got my money back because I thought it was broken. Little did I know how innocent I was. But cassettes, you know, I have good memories of cassettes. I used to splice cassettes. I used to, if you know, sometimes they got caught and they got all knotted up. I used to, in the old days, you used to be able to unscrew the case of the cassette, and you had the two spools of tape. And sometimes if they all got knotted and caught in the tape recorder, I would open it up, cut the two ends. I would get tiny little strips of sellotape, one on the top, one on the bottom, put it back in, spool it up, tighten it, put the thing back, and it would work. I used to love doing that, and I used to get such a great feeling when the tape would work afterwards. I used to do a lot of recording the top 40 on a Sunday, and it used to be a skill that kids had to develop. That when you're listening to the radio and the guys, you've got the intro, so they've got their mixing desk or whatever it is, the guy on the radio, and he's saying, well, here comes I don't know, Michael Jackson with Bad, and they've already spooled it up and it's already starting to play, but they've reduced it so he can talk over it. But you don't want the guy talking, and then you don't want him coming in at the end of the thing. As he gets towards the end of the song, he's going to talk over it again, introducing the next song. Well, that was Michael Jackson, and here we have now Alison Moyet and whoever she sang that famous song that she sang, I can't remember. And so you had to always get ready with your fingers to get ready to stop the record or pause the record, let him do his little talk over, whatever it's called, and get ready to press pause again so it carried on recording when the next song came up. Fun times. That was a Sunday afternoon well spent. Did you guys do that as well, any of you? Yeah, Faulty Towers wouldn't work today, no. Yeah, yes, Patrick. Over the slot on the other side, which prevented you from recording it. Yeah, absolutely. So you could record over it. Yeah. I've actually got a tape somewhere. I've got no idea where it is now. My grandfather was, he used to work in the chief rabbi's office, and he used to be the chief registrar for weddings and deaths in the Jewish community. So it was quite an important job. And he worked in the same office as the chief rabbi of Great Britain and the Commonwealth, which was quite a high up job. And one time Radio 4, BBC Radio 4 decided to interview him, and he had it was the days before computers, and he had he was of Austrian origin, so he was a very meticulous person. And I remember he one time he would always pride himself on the fact that he could find any marriage which was done under the auspices of the chief rabbi's office within 30 seconds, the records within 30 seconds. He was such a meticulous record keeper, and we're talking about hundreds of thousands of weddings, and there was something which he was always proud of, and I've got that, and he mentioned that in that interview on Radio 4. I still have that somewhere. I must find it again. That was just simple things in those days. I think that cigar is done. Yeah, exactly. Mom, I'm recording. But one of the birthday presents that I got as a kid, one of my favorite birthday presents that I got from my parents was a cassette radio, and that's where I got my knowledge of British comedy. And there used to be on Radio 2, BBC Radio 2, on 2 nights a week, I think it was Mondays and Thursdays or Tuesdays and Thursdays, at 10 o'clock, there were half an hour each. There was usually 2 programs, 2 comedies. One of them I remember, which I loved, was Roy Hudd. He was a comedian, he's no longer alive, and the news headlines, and I used to love listening to that. And there was something else as well, so from 10 to 10:30 and then 10:30 to 11, I used to love listening to that, and I used to fall asleep with that. And to this day, I go to sleep always with something playing in my ears. A lot of that is also to get, I have tinnitus in my ears, so you have this whining sound in your ears all the time, but you don't hear unless you're quiet. So when you're working or whatever it is, you don't hear it. But when you're lying in bed and it's black and dark and quiet, then you hear it. So I have headphones on all the time, earphones, little ear things which go inside the ear. So I'm always listening to something, and you do get subliminal knowledge that way. So if you're listening to the radio, the brain listens even though you're asleep. The brain still listens, and you do gather information that way. That's quite a known scientific thing, that. I often have these kind of deja vu times when I'm thinking about something and I think to myself, where have I heard that before? And I can't place it, and oftentimes I'm pretty sure that it's happened when I'm asleep. I've heard something when I was asleep. Right, it's 5 to 1, people. I'm going to say thank you to everybody. Let's go through it. So, unless you've got anything else that you want to ask, by all means do so. But in the meantime, I'll say my thank yous. Stevie, O. Gilmore, Jeremy Viz, Patrick, Bullmoose, Rocking Steady, Daniel Leslie, Oscar Flores, Faizan, Christopher Cheney, Jeff Babarecki, Boca to Boynton, Beowulf and Miss Cathy, and everybody else. If I haven't mentioned you, thank you very much. Thank you for joining me. I hope you've had a pleasant evening. I'll wish you well, and I will catch you on the next one.